let's get rolling. I'd like to thank everybody for being here at the Camden Rockport Schools regular school board meeting, Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There's one adjustment to add a trip request under item number 7, CRMS 8th grade trip to Quebec City, June 16th through the 18th, 2025.
It's coming right up. Next is public comment on items not on the agenda. Okay. Recognition, health inspection, food service team.
So I just wanted to take a minute to recognize the kitchen staffs in actually all of our schools. We had a state health department annual inspection, and the inspector was extremely impressed by the cleanliness and upkeep of both of our kitchens in this district. In addition to the staff's knowledge of food safety, the inspector even remarked that she felt our kitchens could be used for training purposes to show future inspectors what a kitchen is supposed to look like. So great job to our food service staff.
Great.
Fantastic. Next is minutes. I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the December 18th, 2024 regular school board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any further conversation? All in favor? Okay. Notification of resignations. My goodness gracious. I know.
Yep, longtime teacher Carrie Keefe. She was at the elementary school for a while and has been at the middle school for quite a long time, but she's going to retire at the end of this school year.
Congratulations to her. Okay. Excuse me. Request for travel, destination, imagination competition in Meredith, New Hampshire, March 14th and 15th, 2025.
And the Quebec trip.
Oh, and the Quebec trip.
I was calling in case you were asking any questions.
So both of those are in the folders, both the trip request forms.
It's nice to see destination imagination again.
It's not, it doesn't have the same traction as it did before in Maine. It's part of why we're traveling out of state. There's not enough teams to compete. This has happened a couple years in a row. We were moved forward 2 years ago directly into globals for the state, and this year we're going to New Hampshire, and we'll see what happens. So it's hard. There's not a lot of teams in our age group. We're finding they're more elementary focused. Yeah. But we have 5 strong ones holding on, 5 young people who would like to go. And they've raised the funds they need to cover their expenses by running the concession stands for basketball games. Parents are chaperoning with them, and a couple of staff as well. They're going down after school on a Friday, and then their competition Saturday, and they'll come home Saturday night.
Thank you. Should we do them separately or together? Okay. Let's hold off and
Do them together? Okay.
well, actually, you know what?
Okay.
Let's make them.
I'll move we approve the Destination Imagination trip.
Second. All in favor? Oh, any further conversation? Sorry. All in favor? Okay. Passes. Okay, the next is the Quebec City trip. That looks like fun. Can you tell us a little bit about
This
it?
is a big one. So we had an opportunity with some additional funds in the Bisbee fund to kind of have either, a one-time experience or maybe several small experiences. And in brainstorming over the summer, we talked about the desire to have our students have a cultural experience. We've not been doing the Japan exchange for some time. Japan exchange was actually waning before the pandemic. They were kind of closing out on their end. Financially, they were not able to continue to participate. So in that brainstorm, we started to look around at where could we get good culture that we could get to in 3 to 4 days. And Quebec City came up as an opportunity. And there's a company called Explorica. It's similar to the EF Tours. that you hire to basically be your tour guides. We have 2 staff members here, the Hamlins, who have participated in travel with the company many times. They've taken many of our actual students, but in summer programs to Costa Rica. So we wrote a Bisbee proposal to take our entire 8th grade to Quebec for 3 days. I think we have all but 2 students right now who are excited and willing to go. Lots of chaperones excited and willing to go. We don't know if we'll be in school, which I think is just an important thing to note for transparency. The people that signed up to do the trip know that, students and staff. So if we had no snow days, we'd be out of school on that Friday. For every day that we didn't have school, we could cut into the trip, but we will go no matter what on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even if we're not in school. So I don't know what to tell you about chaperones is one of the questions, and chaperone fees. I don't know. Substitutes and substitute fees. I don't know what and if we'll have an impact because I'm not sure if we'll be in school. But we minimize the impact with the staff we're taking. We didn't take we took the 8th grade teachers and then one administrator and some of our counseling staff. Yep. And the itinerary is included in that. So if you want to see what we're doing when we're there, it's on the second to last page. Or might be on the last page, actually, of your packet. But this is the documentation that went home with families. Families all participated in information night. Students have all had presentations and signed some behavioral agreements between now and then, and that's it.
It's a really great itinerary. They'll have a
Yeah,
blast.
we're really excited about it.
They'll have an
a nice
absolute
day.
blast. Does the board have any comments on this?
I move that we accept this Quebec City trip.
Second?
Any further conversation? All in favor?
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
Discussion and decision on K-4 Spanish program. What we would like to do is have any comments from the public first, and then we will take all of that into consideration. Is there anybody who would like to speak? If so, please stand up by the microphone and give your name and the town in which you live. Aaron?
Hi, I'm Aaron Henderson. I live in Camden, and I'm an alumnus of the school here, and my sons are alumni of the schools, and I'm one of the grade 5-8 Spanish teachers. I didn't speak last time because I spoke the previous time, but one thing I felt that wasn't really brought up much is the impact that this K-4 Spanish program has on the Spanish program. There was a lot of talk about the cultural instruction and work and how important that aspect is, but I felt some people were even on the board later in the discussion, I heard, well, I don't know if it's like 90% culture, 10% Spanish. No, I don't know what the percent is, but the kids, I think it's at least 50-50, if not more. It's a Spanish program. And the kids that we have that come up from the K-4 program really have a pretty deep base on a lot of basics, things like numbers, colors, basic conversation, as well as a real interest and love for learning the material, being in Spanish class. It's just part of what they do. They've had Spanish since they were younger. They're accustomed to being in Spanish class. They're interested in the cultural piece, and they really want to learn Spanish, and they really do very well at the middle school. We've had very strong, results at the middle school level. So I just wanted to say that. And I was a little surprised going through the process here. Kara and I met with Sean when he was, sharing with us the findings of his report on the program review, on the efficacy of the K-4 program. And, the conclusion was that, he was going to recommend that the program be cut, partly because of the report, saying it wasn't a very productive program because we couldn't really show any material positive impact on the graduating seniors, based on the kids that had taken Spanish when they were younger. So that was what we initially were led to understand, one of the reasons why the program might be cut. Then, there was a lot of talk at the next meeting that I did speak of, and then it kind of came, well, it's not really, we know the Spanish program is valuable, it's great, of course, anything's valuable, they're learning a lot of Spanish, but, Maria did a pretty good job detailing the budget implications and how enrollment is dropping, and, that's a budget concern. But then at the last meeting, it's like, well, it's not really a budget concern, it's an efficiency issue. So again, I wasn't surprised that some of the folks on the board were like, what is this all about? The message keeps changing here. So I would agree, it's inefficient to have Spanish, it's inefficient to have art, it's inefficient to have gym. It'd be pretty efficient just to have math and language arts. The kids could get really good at that, but that would be a very shallow, not a very broad education. It would be easier to do, of course, but what are we striving for? Pure efficiency or rich education? I guess just a couple last points, since it doesn't seem like there's a lot of speakers. I could talk for a long time, but anyways. Cool anecdotes. So I'm just talking back to the data, like how reasonable it was to look at the outcomes from some of those cohorts from 4 years ago. So my son Ian, some of you know, graduated in 2020. And he's a typical guy, he was homeschooling, remote learning, and doing his Apple OPIC in the kitchen on his cell phone, and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, shh, Dad, I'm like doing my Spanish set, like, come on, terrible. And also he is now at San Diego State, and he's an international business and Spanish major, just did a semester in Spain. He's a salesman in the summer, has a sales job. He's doing sales in English and Spanish, doing super well. If he hadn't had that Spanish, wouldn't be as effective. My son Julian's at the Coast Guard Academy. Also, he's getting he'll get bonus pay when he deploys based on his Spanish skills. And I see you're looking at your watch, but I didn't see anybody else say they want to talk. Okay, that's pretty much it. But I mean, just again, now 20% of the people in our country are native Spanish speakers. It was 10% when we started this program. I mean, the timing is bad to look at cutting back on this, and some of our kids are really benefiting from this in college and beyond. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ann Rogers Popejoy. I live in Rockport. I want to bring up a couple of points that I think have been well communicated by the community during this process. I want to echo what this man just said about the way that the priorities and what you're actually being asked to vote on tonight have changed. And I think that that's incredibly difficult for you, but it's really hard for us as a community to understand how we're being represented and what the true values of this district are. So I would like to bring up the point about the language around the way that we were looking at the efficacy of the program changing, the way the investigation, the report, the data were all compiled. Those things have not been consistent or transparent. So it's been very hard for us as parents and community members to articulate arguments to support this program, to keep on top of the way that you're changing the narrative. And so I ask you to consider if you or if we have been given a fair amount of information or data around what we're defending, or if this program deserves a thorough and transparent inspection. And that's what I'll ask you to do tonight. We know there's value in Spanish. We know there's value in world language. We know that the community is in support of this program and in support of running a school district that we're proud of. What I'm not proud of tonight is the fact that we don't have clear data. We don't know what we're being asked to support and what you're being asked to vote on. So I'd like to make sure that this program, if it does have to come up again to be considered to be cut, is given a fair shot, a transparent shot, and that as taxpayers and community members and as school board members, we're all provided with clear points about what it is we're being asked to make a decision on. We deserve that, our educators deserve that, you deserve that as board members, and more than anyone, our children deserve that. So, thank you.
Speak.
Okay.
Maria, do you have anything?
I do. So I want to address what ultimately was my recommendation regarding the K-4 Spanish program. as I've noticed some misunderstanding among the public and staff about the reasoning behind my intent. Let me be clear about the primary factors driving this consideration. First and foremost, this is about responding to demographic realities. Our enrollment has declined 13% over the past decade, requiring us to consider corresponding staffing adjustments across the board. While we readily add positions when needs arise, such as our recent additions of a behavior specialist, special education social worker, and the upcoming half-time speech and language teacher, we must also be willing to reduce positions when circumstances warrant. Currently, our specialist teachers have fewer classes than in previous years, and we've had to create additional programming to fill their schedules. With enrollment projections suggesting this trend will continue, we need to make difficult choices about program prioritization as time goes on. The recommendation to consider the Spanish program specifically stems from two factors: our assessment of the program's effectiveness in terms of language acquisition outcomes, and the need to balance educational offerings with fiscal responsibility. I acknowledge and appreciate the community's strong support for the cultural exposure the Spanish program provides. However, I have a responsibility to also consider the voices of community members expressing strong concern about rising educational costs in our budgets. At over $26,000 per pupil that we spend, we maintain a significant investment in our students' education, and we must ensure these investments are both effective and sustainable. We intentionally brought this discussion to the board in December to allow ample time for community input and thorough board deliberation before any budget decisions were made. This approach reflects my commitment to transparency and community input. I understand this recommendation has sparked strong emotions. My role requires making difficult recommendations based on data, budget realities, and the long-term sustainability of our programs. I remain committed to maintaining the high quality of education our community expects, while also being a responsible steward of public resources.
Thank you, Marie. Okay. Anything, board, conversation? We've had a lot of conversation, that's for sure.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I move to not accept the recommendations to eliminate the Spanish program at this time.
Second.
Any further conversation?
Would you be willing to amend that motion that we get a community-based committee together to look at the implications of declining enrolling? Because the decline is going to continue into the future, and there'll be repeated questions coming up as to how we're going to cope with that. And it would be good to have the community's input on that.
My question is, does that have to be part of the motion?
It doesn't have to be, but
Or
it could
can
be.
it just be
It's up to
something
Marcus
that
whether he's
we,
willing to add that.
I don't think I want to add it to the motion, but I agree with you, and I think we should definitely have a strategic plan around what you're addressing.
okay. Anybody else? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing? I would encourage all of you to come to the budget meeting. The last time we had the budget meeting where all of this is approved, we had 2 community members come to vote on the budget. So is that May 17th? Is that correct?
I don't,
No,
the
Look
public
at the
input?
schedule. It's very important because we've heard that the bond in the high school was defeated because people were worried about our budgets.
Okay.
So our entire budget could be easily challenged this year.
According to my information, it is Monday, May 12th at 6 PM here. We would love to see you.
Respond if we're being addressed? I'm just curious.
Pardon?
I'm just wondering, are we allowed a response if we're being directly addressed?
No, I'm just telling you.
I was speaking to Mark.
Thank you very, very much for attending this evening and for your interest in the programs at the elementary school. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Board chairs report. Winter board workshop report. Well,
I was wondering what you were going to say about
a lot of conversation that evening.
Good pizza.
And good pizza, and good people. It was, I mean, it's really nice to have people who show up to these retreats, and it's the first time since I've been on the board where anybody from the public has shown up, and I think that's over the last 9 years.
Yeah.
It was good to have the conversation, and it's nice to have the vote this evening. The fiscal year 26 budget development timeline is in our packets. The only change in that is if you look at it, it is on page 7 of 21. On Wednesday, February 26th, Finance Committee budget review will be at 6 o'clock as opposed to 5:30. But you'll see the dates and the times for the process, and Wednesday, April 16th is the board vote on the budget approval. Monday, May 12th is the public budget meeting at Bisbee, both all admin, both districts. And then Tuesday, June 10th is the actual referendum. And this will be in on the website, correct?
I assume,
Dates.
yeah, it's on the board calendar, isn't it?
It's on the calendar?
Yep.
Okay, good, so the public will be able to access it. Okay,
Becky?
yes.
I apologize if I'm crossing my streams here, but is there also a board retreat next Wednesday? Or was that an old date that got kicked?
Old date.
Okay, thank you. I'm not deleting things off my calendar. All right, thank you.
All
But there
right.
is a CSD one in March.
Yeah, is
Thank
it
you.
March? Yeah,
It's on the same night as the board meeting, though?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
good. Next is the superintendent's report.
So I didn't have a written report, but I have a few things to share. Just a budget update. Chris and I have been working hard on the FY26 budget that we'll present to the Finance Committee at the February meeting, which is the Wednesday after school vacation. And I'm pretty confident we'll come in under the board's target of 5%. And, you know, if you've been paying attention to the news at all, there are a few administration policies that may impact schools. And I'm just going to give you updates on two of those things. One is immigration. And I'm actually just going to read what I have since it's sort of the most succinct way to put it. In light of the Trump administration's stated plans to focus on increased immigration enforcement, we've drafted district guidance on what to do if an immigration and customs enforcement officer approaches one of the schools. Students at school are protected by the 1982 Plyler versus Doe Supreme Court decision that held that all students in a state are entitled to an education regardless of immigration status. In addition to DHS guidance that schools are considered sensitive locations, which require prior written approval before conducting enforcement actions. Our protocol is for the school principal to meet any agent at the door, outside the door, collect any identification or paperwork presented, then consult with our legal counsel, and contact the student's parents before allowing the agent into the building, and only allowing them in if legal counsel advises us to do so. The other one is on gender. Trump's recent executive order entitled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. That order only applies to the federal government and federal government agencies and does not inhibit the force of Maine law or locally adopted school board policy. So Maine schools, including ours, are expected to abide by the Maine Human Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination in education on the basis of sex and sexual orientation, which includes gender identity and expression. So for now, the two executive orders shouldn't impact our school operations.
Thank you for that research.
Yep.
Okay, administrative reports, I'm sorry, I'm still processing. Sean Carlson.
So this month, as I did last year, I've shared our NPY assessment results by school and compared them to several different groups of schools. The ones in each of those tables that are highlighted in gray are schools that are very similar in demographics. So they're similar size, they have similar SES status, that's low socioeconomic status. And then the last few tables compare all of the schools that funnel into the districts that funnel into the high school. The results are very similar to last year's results. Where both CRESS and CRMS rank vis-a-vis these other school systems is very similar. We are, as we've been talking for a while, looking at ways to move the needle on science results, which are not just a function of what's happening at the middle school, but are a function of how much time we're investing in science at the elementary school. And Jamie and I will be meeting with the science teachers next week to review results and talk about some strategies that we can implement at the middle school in and above some that Katie has shared about some changes that we hope to see coming at the elementary school. And I'm happy to take any questions.
What grades are represented here, or is this grade, all the grades?
So by schools, if they're middle schools, they're mostly the same, 5-8. Some are 6-8 groups, and elementary schools are K4.
But which grades are tested?
Oh, so, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I misunderstood. So in elementary grades, it's grades 3 and 4 for ELA and math. There are no science tests administered.
Right.
At the elementary school, and in the middle school, it's 5 through 8. But science exams are only administered to 5th graders and 8th graders.
So science is 5th grade, and so this
So those
table
are
that you have,
combined.
it's a composite.
Right.
So
The last time we shared these data, I showed you the 5th grade results and the 8th grade results.
Okay.
So a lot of middle schools wouldn't have 5th graders in their results because their 5th graders are tested with the elementary students.
Yeah, it'd probably be more instructive to include the grade spans, but most of these middle schools are 5 through 8.
Oh, are they? Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So if I'm reading this right, the science score is relative, what's the right term? Comparably lower than math and ELA, even when combining the 5th and 8th
Yeah.
graders.
Correct. And as we saw, I don't know, in November maybe when I first shared, 8th grade results are higher than 5th grade results in science.
Thank you, Sean. It's helpful. Thank you for formatting. It's very helpful.
It develops.
Okay. Thank you. Jesse Yates? Oh, here you are.
You have my report in your packet this evening, but I just wanted to highlight the profile of the incoming kindergarten students with disabilities for next year. These numbers change, as do kind of all special ed numbers over time, but right now we're aware of 13 children with disabilities who will be joining our kindergarten class next year, and our programmatic predictions are in the report. So we do have children who are slated for resource, day treatment, life skills, and then we also have a child who may be continuing in an out-of-district placement. So that conversation will come up, during our budget conversation. But generally speaking, I know we're experiencing declining enrollment, but we have a healthy crop of incoming kiddos that we'll be observing and meeting on later in the spring to ensure that we provide proper programming for them upon entry into public school. So we're excited to get to know those students and families. And the other piece I just wanted to note is that at this brief moment, our team at CRESS is complete, which is amazing. in the world of special ed. And then actually, since this report was published, we actually hired the remaining resource ed tech at the middle school. So in special ed, we have lots of staffing challenges, but right now at this moment, things are looking good. And it does change as people make different decisions, but it's pretty exciting to even be close at this point in time. And our kids definitely benefit from consistent providers. And we have a really great team of folks at the CSD and at the SAD who are serving our kids. So just wanted to share that excitement with you too.
Thanks, Jess.
I have a question for Jess.
Okay.
The 13 students, incoming kindergartners for next year, how does that compare with last year or the year before?
I think we had 10 last year, so we're on par, a little bit more at this point in time. And I will say, you know, kids move or other kids are referred over the course. I mean, it's only January, so we probably are expecting these numbers to go up by, you know, 2 or 3 or so at least, because kids kind of come out of the woodwork. So we're definitely on par with prior years and maybe a little above.
Thank you.
No problem.
Jamie?
Again, everybody, I have a report in the packet. I wanted just to point out a few things. Professional development, we've done a robust amount of PD in the past 4-6 weeks. I wanted to point out that Kara Winkelhofer and I have been attending the Multilingual Learners series with the Department of Ed, which has been a really good resource. We have a bubble in sixth grade of students who are receiving services, and it's drawn out the need to do some instructional and professional growth with teachers. So it's been really great. The state's been responsive, and it's the first time they've run this cohort. So I just wanted to point that out. Also wanted to note, just had a quick conversation with Maria earlier this week. Under experiential learning, I referred to some training around what looks like reading material, so in case that's confusing, because it says experiential learning, we're doing training around a program we pay for through the budget, Newsella. And the reason I put that in there is for two things. One, so you could see the things we spend our money on that we're training our teachers on, but also so you understand, because we're being responsive in education, we need kind of in the moment news reporting and articles and reliable source information, because we don't use textbooks. So it's really fruitful to have training in something where we can get accurate information, infographics, level learning, text that's in multiple languages. So I just wanted to highlight that we're trying to do some training around that and make that more accessible for people as they're building their units. And then just a really neat part of this update was the 5th grade Wabanaki signage project is continuing. We have 2 students going to the Camden town meeting this month to talk about the plan for the unveiling of signage at different locations. So I just wanted to keep you in the loop on that, because it's very awesome outgrowth of actionable work that we're doing with our kids. And even though they've moved on to 6th grade, they're still getting pulled back in and doing good work, and they're trying to figure out how to get the 5th grade students involved too, because they're in the beginning of their Wabanaki project. So it's making an impact in the town, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
That is great.
Thank you.
It's great. And thanks to Heather Butler for a lot of that work that came out of her classroom.
Katie Bauer.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie.
I actually don't have much to add from what's in here and from last week, but I would just say that today, Amanda, we did a lot of PD last week around the ELA, and Amanda Pingree doing that. And today, the committee presented to the whole staff the EL pilot, which was really well received. So it's exciting to see the language arts piece here really take root. And if you haven't been able to visit the library makerspace, really encourage you to come. I hope, well, you have the paper link. So on the website, Megan has a lovely sort of display of what's happening in the makerspace by grade level. And that's a, I mean, if you can't come visit the building, that's a really nice way to see what's happening. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, standing committee reports. Joint curriculum has not met. Facilities has not met. Finance met December 18th, 2024. Minutes are attached. Meets before the school board meeting on January 22nd, 2025.
Yeah, we had a
Go for
robust meeting before this meeting. And Chris gave us some great figures. So we are 50% through our budget with 13 out of 26 payrolls. Our target is to have spent 50% of the budget halfway through. Our actuals is that we have spent 47.1, so a little bit under. The same period a year ago, we were at about 46.6, and 2 years ago, 47.3. So around where we've usually been. So nothing alarming there. There were just a few pieces that we went over. The business office was a little bit different just because of the result of moving the position from the CSD to the SAD and having 2 weeks of overlap in those positions. And then, as we've mentioned, some curriculum development and instructional technology spending that brought those items higher for the period of the year that we're in. So, all good, and we look forward to going over the budget in our next Finance Committee meeting.
All right. Any questions for Marcus? Okay. Joint personnel has not met, and joint policy has not met. Next is school advisory committee reports. District Sustainability Committee has not met. And future agenda items. How are we using our outdoor spaces? Have a presentation in March. Library makerspace presentation in April, and an overview of the science programming presentation, including any changes made in response to recent data in May. Anybody has any other ideas? Let us know. And on that, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who attended and who